Hi, I'm Courtney Sorotin. Thanks for joining us today on JCM Direct. If your credit profile is prohibiting you from obtaining a job, a first-time mortgage, or a decent car, or if your bad credit is causing you to pay outrageous interest rates from lenders, then stop worrying. Our next guest is a diva in her own right, and she's here to help. My guest is America's favorite credit diva, and in her new book, Credit Repair Uncensored, an insider's approach to repairing your own credit, no matter how bad it is, Lachelle Paul is blowing the lid off of what she calls the biggest con game in the credit reporting industry. Lachelle, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Courtney.
So, how did you get the name America's favorite credit diva?
Well, I'm really not sure how I got the name America's favorite credit diva. I guess it was something that was just thrown on me because of what I do. Over the years, I've helped numerous people get their credit back on track where they were able to make those big purchases, first-time home mortgages, being able to obtain their student loans, car loans, things of that nature. And because they had such enormous amounts of debt and their credit demise was so great from the beginning, and what they saw from the beginning up until the end, and they saw the final product, and then they became fortunate enough to obtain those goals that they had that they would not have obtained at the time if they still had the credit profile that they started out with. I guess it kind of just stuck on me, and it grew with me as the business grew. Essentially, it's one of those things where credit repair has had such a bad name over so many years. And certain institutions, certain banking institutions, big businesses don't want you, the consumer, to know exactly what it is that they have the rights to under the law. They need someone to help them, to show them where to go, where to find this information, and know what their rights are, mainly.
So how did you get into credit repair?
I started out as going to school for business. And once I obtained that degree, it was really something I didn't want to do. I ended up going and decided to get into the paralegal studies program. I wanted to basically primarily go so I could work in a lawyer's office and, do the general paralegal duties until I started coming up and started reading and getting more in depth in studies. I took a bankruptcy course. Then I said, hey, wow, these are things that I can help myself with. Because I had some issues myself with credit issues, and it was something that I was tackling daily. Creditors calling, ringing my phone, and I'm looking at my caller ID trying to see, did I want to talk to that person? Is it somebody that was for me, or were they trying to disguise who they were to get through? And at that time, I said, well, I'm going to see if I can take these techniques. What better way to practice the knowledge of what you've learned within a course than to go and actually do it yourself? So as I went through and I started going and, writing to those creditors, actually learning more about the law, and it actually became it was amusing. I mean, it was just things that I couldn't believe that we had rights to that no one ever told us. The Federal Trade Commission has so many laws that apply to us as the consumer and gives us the right to go through, and that owner of that big business or corporation that's actually ringing your telephone 10 times a day, they have to actually prove that these debts are actually valid debts. They have to have the burden of proof. So I found out that I had more rights than what those creditors did. And as I started learning more and more, and I started doing more and more research, looking at the U.S. codes, Federal Trade Commission, going back through, looking at the business practices, seeing if these people were even licensed, to collect debts in our states, that's when I started saying, hey, this is something that a lot of people don't know. And when we really found out, when I really discovered that business owners and these creditors, these collection companies were actually going through, and it was almost criminal. They're borderline criminal activity when trying to collect debts from people. It was at a time that I said, hey, somebody needs to step up and say, this is wrong. you do have help out there. You're not the only one that's being harassed. And I decided to go ahead and do something about it. So.
Can you tell me what are some of the practices that businesses and collection agencies are doing that are borderline illegal?
It's a lot of things and a lot of practices that companies are using, padding the interest rate within your credit report, and saying that you owe, certain dollar amounts, and on one bureau you may owe $3,000, and then on another bureau they have $3,100. Then on the next bureau, they're saying you have $3,200, and you're trying to figure out, okay, well, why are they reporting so many different prices? Is this company actually, do they even know how much I owe? Have they added money to what I owe? Because I know I haven't spoken with them. I have no idea. Even sometimes sometimes a debt can sit on your report for so long and you don't know if they're even operating within the interest rates that you were originally contracted to do in the first place. It is so many things that companies are doing to basically pad their own pocket. It's unreal. One of the biggest problems that they have with these big businesses is the businesses, after it sits on your credit report for 120 days, and then they go and they send it to an outside collection agency. When they say we send it to an outside collection agency, they sell your debt to an outside collection agency. Their debt, of course, is absorbed by an insurance company. And then, in my opinion, it's one of those things where you have to almost know exactly every dollar amount. You want to know what their calculations are, how they're arriving at this. And just because you sent it over to a collection agency, you have no right to add anything else to what I owe you outside of what it was originally contracted for. If you are dealing with these kind of issues, then the company that you are dealing with is less than honest. And the bottom line is, out of 1,000 of Americans that are out there and that are dealing with credit issues, only 10 may figure this out, that something has been wrong with the way that these debts are being put on their account. And the reason why we don't know is because you don't know where to look. You don't know how to actually go about seeing, and then you're scared, you're afraid. You don't want to go up against corporate America. Well, in order for you to do this, you have to equip yourself. You have to get the tools that you need to go after them and say, no, I'm not going to stand for it. You're going to go and do what you're supposed to do under the guidelines of the law. And if you don't, then I will make sure that you don't